Hello there, this is Denzin, and today I'm looking at this, Muskets and Tomahawks, or is it Shakos and Bayonets? So a bit of a identity crisis here. Uh, this is by Studio Tomahawk. Muskets and Tomahawks is a game that's been out for a very long time. This is the second edition, which came out over 5 years ago now, and it's probably famous for the fact that it is 18th century wars in the colonial period, so American War of Independence, French Indian Wars before that, or 1812 after that. And that's what the original rules were designed to do. They're sort of large scale skirmish, warband style, with units running around the woods, raiding, ambushing, that sort of shenanigans. But when they did the second edition, they've kind of moved away from that slightly, because if you want to do that, you've got to get this separate book here, Redcoats and Tomahawks, so that you can do your American colonial warfare. But then they did shakos and bayonets for Napoleonic warfare. So the main rulebook itself is a kind of catch-all for doing, as it says, skirmish rules in the age of black powder. So any 18th, 19th century bit of warfare that you want to do, be it in North America, be it in colonial warfare, be it, say, the Peninsular War, so if you want to do the napoleonics. So it's a bit more of a mixed bag of different things. So the rule book gives you everything you need to do that, apart from the army lists. So where's my Confederate army list? Well, we haven't got one, because they've never done a book on the American Civil War. So where is it? Why haven't they done this yet? Shackles and Bayonets came out about 4 years ago, and we've heard nothing since. So I would really like the colonial rulebook myself, because I am really interested in, say, doing the Zulu War, which I have a very large collection for. So I think this system would work brilliantly for that. And I know that there's been a few homebrew rules where people have done this themselves and gone off and come up with their own army lists and so on, using rules already. But there's no actual official book for doing it. And I think that's a shame. It really is. And I think it's also a shame that they don't really shout about what they have done. So Shakos and Bayonets here covers the Napoleonic Wars. So we have army lists in here for, of course, the French. We have a little summary of the actual wars themselves. We've got army lists for all the major players, the British, the Prussians, the Austrians, the Spanish, the Portuguese. They're all in there. I have a Russian force, I have a Spanish force, I have a French force, I have a British force. And then you can do the minor nations. So if you want to do Denmark, Belgium, or make your own nation up, do something a bit weird, you certainly could with this system. And then at the back there are scenario ideas, and the scenarios for this game are all very narrative. It's not a tournament-based game, it's very, very scenario-based. And if you want to do your sharp stories, that sort of thing, it's all about heroic officers doing heroic things with their bands of men. So when you think of Napoleonics, you might think of very large battles, probably done in 10 mil, 6 mil. But if you want to do 28 mil and you want to do low-key battles, skirmishes over villages, zooming in on, say, La Haye Sainte, on Waterloo, or, zooming in onto a particular part of a battlefield and imagine there's a bigger battle going on elsewhere, you can do that. What I've got in front of me here is a little Peninsular War skirmish between a small French force and some Spanish. And this is probably around the smallest sort of figure count you're going to have in a game. So you have points values. This is the lower end of the point scale. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units on each side here. Quite small units. You can boost them up. You can sort of double some of the sizes. So top is about 12 models per unit. Lowest is around 4, like my voltages here. Only 4 of those fellows skirmishing away. So very small little units, and with heroic officers leading them. Obviously, that Frenchman slightly from the rear. Commandante Teresa there with her guerrillas storming along. Most of these are Perry miniatures. There's a few here and there's. I think bad Squiddo games for her. But the game system is great because it's not a you go, I go sort of system. It's a card-driven system, and there's no turns. It just rolls along. It's D10 based, and the games are run on a deck of cards. So if you have a unit of, say, general regular infantry, such as the Spanish Fusiliers here, you get a card for them, and you get a card for every unit, and they're all in there, and you have your deck, and then every player gets 3 each. So there's 3 there for the Spanish, 3 there for the French. There's a deck of cards for the American Wars, for the colonial period, and of course a deck of cards for napoleonics, but nothing else yet. So let's just see what our French have. Here we go. So we've got line infantry here, a morale card, and another line infantry. Now you'll notice one is blue, one is red. So one army is the red army, the other army is the blue. So we'll say that the French are obviously the blue, the Spanish are the red. So if I'm the French player, at the beginning of my go, I pick a card to play. So my enemy doesn't see this, keep them secret. So this is going to help me stop my men running away, use that when I need it. That is obviously the enemy, that's my men. So I'm going to go, right, line infantry. Do I pick the chaps down here to go? Or do I pick the guys behind to go? They're my 2 main line infantry units. And I make a decision. Or do I not go? Do I say to my opponent, there you go, you move your line infantry. And then they can go, well, it's either going to be these guys or these guys. Because these are guerrillas, these are light infantry, and they have their own cards. So I can't use them, but I've got to pick them. So it forces your enemy to go, or you go. And then your enemy will do the same. So what 3 cards did the Spanish get? There we go. They can do a command order. And then they've got, oh no, French and French, line and light. So I can either get my officer, who's over here on his splendid horse, to do something amazing, or I can force the French to go and do something with their units. And it goes back and forth like that. So once you run out of cards, you start pulling more out of the deck. And you do have not just unit cards, you do get like the forward boys there, or the morale card, which are little things that officers can do. You also get clock cards, and there's 3 of them in the deck. So when you draw the first one, if I remember correctly, like a random event might happen. And there's random events in the books. So there's tables for random events, and there's loads and loads and loads. So you can roll them up and see what strange things might happen. And when you get to the 3rd clock card, you shuffle the deck and all the discards go back in the pile. And you just keep going. You just keep going until you've completed your narrative scenario, whatever it may be. Well, my criticism here is that I don't think there's enough scenarios. I think they could do a lot more. So, for example, in our Napoleonic book here, I think we've got a couple of big ones at the back here, scenarios. So you've got a convoy, attacking the convoy. There's loads of rules for it. You know, what season is it? What sort of weather's going on? What's the cargo? And depending on the cargo, this scenario is going to be different every single time. Because it could be gunpowder that's going to blow up. It could be prisoners who break loose and run around. So that adds a lot of randomness to it. Is how do you attack? So that will depend on your deployment somewhat. And this is all one scenario. There's loads going on. And so what's the cargo? So depending on, is it gold? Is it precious goods? Is it the prisoners? So each one is a different outcome. We've got the final hour, so the closing stages of a really big battle going on. And an assault. And that's quite good for doing your sort of La Haissance style, attack the gates or Huguan, that sort of thing. Attacking maybe a compound like this. And the heart of the Inferno. So that's where there's a massive battle going on and you're in the middle. And you've got stuff, I think, off table happening, so that could affect your game. So yeah, battle events, look. So you roll on there, other things could come on. Artillery support from off the board and so on. So they're really, really packed full. I mean, that's like 4 pages for one scenario. So lots of really interesting things going on. But there is only 4 scenarios. I'd like a lot more. Adding to this, in the main rule book, you also get, as I say, we've got random events and intrigues that the officers have. So you can roll on here to see what sort of officer you got. Is he a lucky person, or authoritarian, and so on. But then you can roll on these tables here to see what other strange things your officer is up to. Is he scatterbrained? Is he intelligent? Prideful? And these give you extra missions to do, if you like, an objective, something else you need to do. So he's eccentric. So during the game, you have 3 or more cards in your hand. You must play your cards randomly instead of choosing, because it's an eccentric. So that's, you could randomly pick a card, and that's what he's decided to do. So some really fun stuff there that really throw a spanner in the works. So that's what I like about this game. It's very fluid with the card system. It's very random with events that you've got to think on the fly with. And the scenarios are packed full of character. There's just not enough of them. I want a few more. You've got various traits for different units. So there's lots of different abilities. You could do volley fire depending on the units. So if you're line infantry, that sort of thing. We've got rules for waterways and boats. Very good for the Americas. Setting fire to buildings. That's why I thought maybe Rorke's Drift would be good. Set fire to the buildings. Obstacles. All sorts of effects for terrain. One of the other interesting things about the system is the spotting rules in this game. So when you're going to shoot someone, you've got to see if you can see them. At first, when I saw these rules, I thought, what the hell? But if I go to the back here and look at the main handy reference charts here, spotting table, there we go. So depending on the range here, got the range, and then you look at modifiers to this. So we start here in the red at 96 inches away. And then we look at the terrain. So for each obstacle in the way, -1 column. Boom, boom. So for example, if my guerrillas here want to shoot the French cavalry over there, you've got a wagon in the way, you've got a wall in the way, and then you've got the actual cavalry. So, well, there's a couple of things in the way. So go bomb, bomb down to here. For every complete 6 inches of area of light cover. No, there's no light cover in the way. I think we're okay. Solid cover, -2 because it's a wall, isn't it? So 1, 2, then the wagon, so that's probably 3. Depending on the weather that we've already rolled up, if it's darkness, down another 3 because it could be a nighttime scenario. So I can only see 12 inches away. Oh no. But if they're scouts, they're even harder to spot. Yeah. So if they're fired a gun, then there'll be lots of smoke and flash bang, so you'll spot them a bit easier. And then you can go up again. So it gives you a range. How far can you see? And it took me a while to get used to that. And I thought, oh, actually, that's quite good. I quite like that. Because obviously we look at our tables and our figures just standing around and it's a nice clear table. But in the reality of war, of course, we've got dust, we've got smoke, a lot of smoke. We've got the weather, and you've got how observant they are in the first place. So I don't think they can see them. The range is only 12 now, so I can't even see to the wagon on these circumstances. Yeah, so you have to pick your targets, and then you've got to roll to see if you can spot them. And if you don't spot them, you can't shoot them. And that's the way it works. So it's an interesting system. I would really recommend it. I just wish they'd do more for it. Do the colonial rules. I'd love to do Rorke's Drift using these rules. I could do it myself. I could look at British rules for how the British are in shakos and bayonets, for example. But then I'd have to tweak the firearm rules so it's not a musket. Because if you shoot, you've got to reload. So it's got that nitty-gritty of the musketry. So each weapon's got its own special abilities. So again, you've got volley fire if you do rank up. You know, you've got your skirmishers who are harder to hit, but they might have rifles. You know, you've got artillery as well. And there is separate rules for canister shot. And of course cavalry. So if this is small scale here, a couple of units of French here, 1, 2, 3, artillery 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6 units, and the officer. He costs money as well, costs points. That's the smallest. You could double this quite easily and have a much bigger force. but this gives you an idea of the lowest model count. So for example, if you bought a Perry Miniatures box set of French infantry, you could easily get 3 units out of that. Easily. So that's what I did here. I've got my Spanish, couple of units there quite easily. And they've done their guerrillas recently, haven't they? So you could easily do them. I've got some metal ones there. So quick and easy to do an army. Or, well, not an army, you know, a force for this particular game. And with the card system and the randomness and the in-depth scenarios, it's a great game. Really great game. If you want something a bit more oomph to it, you know, where there's a story involved and your people are named and you get invested in the characters. When we did the American War of Independence, and we ended up with officers dueling. There's rules for that. So if 2 officers meet, they can actually fight it out in a very cinematic way and have a duel. And you might roll up at the beginning that one of them's brought their wife along, you know, or his mistress, and she's in the way. And you know, it's just great. It's just so different to the normal you go, I go, shoot, morale, run away, charge. You know, it's very fluid, and you never ever get bored with the card system. You always got to think, what card am I going to play? Do I let my enemy go? Do I go? When's the next clock counter coming along? You know, and it keeps going and going until the scenario is complete. So that's Muskets and Tomahawks, or Shakos and Bayonets if you prefer. So do look beyond Muskets and Tomahawks, beyond the American Wars. I do that as well, though. I do play the American Wars. But let's not forget the Napoleonics. If you want to do Napoleonics with this system, it's a great shout. I just wish they let us do the colonials as well. So that's my little rant about this game. Let me know if you like it yourself. Have you tried the Napoleonic version of this? There's a lot of options out there for Napoleonics. It's difficult to find a game that you like and that covers what you think a Napoleonic battle should be like. But as I say, if you want to do raids, ambushes, or something a bit more cinematic, I always think this is the game to go for. So cheers for that. I'll see you again.